Another Sunday, another case of the scaries to start your work week. Welcome to the newest edition of the Sunday Scaries, where we have all your gore, lore, and more, covering all the latest horror happenings, slicing open all the latest horror news, and dissecting it bit by bit, finding all those juicy innards. Pour that cup of coffee and turn a fright light while we take you on a tour of terror. And yes, we are here fresh off of Splatterthon. We made it through the month of October. A lot of great horror properties out there, some questionable ones as well, but we keep on trucking, and the horror news never stops here on the Sunday Scaries.
Except when we don't post episodes. But yes, it does never stop regardless. So, yeah, no, I mean, this has definitely been one of the busier weeks for sure. I got to say, as far as news goes, there's been a lot of stuff, lots of fun things to discuss. Some stories not as big as others. But yeah, I mean, like other than that, we had a lot of fun stuff happen on the channel this week. I mean, we really had a video pop off. You guys seem to really respond to our Terrifier 3 coverage of the teaser trailer there. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, that was fun. I definitely enjoyed what we got from that. And I gotta say, I think the kind of the way the internet has kind of run with this since Wednesday night has been just a lot of fun to participate in. Seems like everybody's really on the same page with this one.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I felt like we could probably gauge that they were going to be the Terrifier fan base is just so rabid, and I think after that Terrifier 2, we can honestly say that we are a big part of that fan base as well. And being able to go see that film in the theater again, knowing what to expect. And being able to anticipate some of those kills, and of course, we all know that big centerpiece kill was just absolutely fabulous to be able to actually see again with an audience of people that you just know are in the know of Art the Clown.
Absolutely. Yeah, I will always, I think I've recounted this story so many times and I'll continue to, but I will always think back to the part where he brings in the salt and the bleach. And I just remember looking over at you and you looked over at me at like the same time because there was just a person in between us and we both just had this look of what the fuck is going on, dude? Like it's one of my favorite scenes honestly in horror of the last few years to show people because yeah, it's extreme and it's nuts, but every time that Salt and the Bleach comes out, people just fucking laugh. They're like, "What is this? Like, well, this was like really gory and gruesome and terrible, and now he's doing this, like, absolutely nuts."
I know it's such a wild time, and one of the ones that really got me this time around was the in the car with the shotgun. Really wild stuff, and the way they really lean into that, and then being able to see that teaser at the end. We're already, as soon as that poster leaked, I mean, we were all in for Art the Clown and a Christmas themed Terrifier. But being able to see an actual little bit there and Art dressed up as Santa, I mean, my gosh, I cannot wait. October Splatterthon 2024 cannot come soon enough.
I know it's gonna be a heck of a month. Well, I mean, yeah, month next year. It's gonna be wild, and yeah, it's gonna be number 3 on the Splatterthon docket. It's crazy to think that we already got through number 2. This year felt faster than last year, but I mean, I guess that's when you do back-to-back film festivals on top of just trying to create content, it goes pretty fast. But yeah, we thank you guys for tuning in with us there. So why don't we hop in to the news here, Luke? And we are actually going to be talking a little bit more about Terrifier, which is always welcome on the channel here. But yes, we just wanted to report that following up from the trailer coverage, we promise we're not going to milk this thing too dry.
Yes,
But
we are.
yeah, we're going to beat this thing into the ground. It's what you guys want. We're going to be Terrifier people now. Terrifier 3 is finally gotten an official release date coming October 25th, 2024. Now, I was really happy that they made this announcement. I literally called it out in our breakdown where I was like, I just think that that would have been, the final cherry on top of that teaser trailer would have at least been nice to right after the wreath goes away to have that announcement. But hey, day late, but certainly not a dollar short on that one. This is good news. I'm happy to hear this. And to be real, I would have been just as happy if they would have put this in December. at this point. You know, like any time between that October, November, December area, I think is ripe for this. But October, I mean, it's Art's month just as much as it's Michael's month, and you know all these other great horror icons. So let's do it. Let's get back into theater. A little later this time, he's actually going to be up a little closer to when a lot of the big boy slots get taken up for, you know, horror movies. So like this is the Five Nights at Freddy's slot, and you know usually like the week before this is another big horror movie. So we'll have to see what the competition looks like. But I mean, can they repeat the same success? I think with how rabid the fan base is, like you said, Luke, that I think they'll do pretty damn well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a no-brainer. Yes, this isn't like a huge studio that's backing Terrifier or anything like that, as Damien Leone kind of mentioned in this little interview there, saying, you know, there are some boundaries he really wanted to push with Terrifier through 3 and knew he kind of had to go it alone instead of, you know, going with a giant studio. And, you know, I think while Terrifier is still that very much of independent property, that groundswell. I mean, how we've talked about how Terrifier 2 just really just struck a chord with a lot of people and really kind of re-racked how we look at these releases. Art the Clown and Terrifier as a property is pretty much a big boy now. I think when we kind of go into the month of October, I think there are a lot of fans that didn't know about Art, and then with, you know, this big groundswell that came out last year, I think, and being VOD, being released on Blu-ray, I think a lot of people are actually finding Art the Clown in the Terrifier property now. And yeah, it's not a Michael, it's not a Freddy, it's not a Jason, but I think in terms of these independent horror properties, and when we start talking about these characters that are going to really carry us probably for the next decade, I think Terrifier and Art the Clown is easily in that conversation.
No, I agree. I think that you know, as much hate as I might get for this, I'm not going to consider him a true big boy just yet. I think get that third film under your belt, and that's great. You know, I think that will cement him. But I'm going to hold out just a minute. I think that he's grown a lot right now. But even you got it to be fair. When Terrifier 1 came out, he was still pretty niche. Terrifier 2 is what really sent him up. So if they can prove that he can hold that momentum, which I have no doubt in my mind that they will, I think that the creative team behind this is doing everything in their power to keep this as pure and for the fans as possible. Even you mentioned it with Damon Leone, that story of him turning down some bigger studios because he didn't want people looking over his shoulder. I respect the hell out of that. But, you know, it gives me full confidence. But I think to be fair, I want one more film before I can say, yep, you're right up there. But hey, I fucking love Art the Clown. Don't get me wrong. I do. I'm just being a little bit of a prude right now. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just semantics at this point, where I
very
don't
much.
think I've seen a Terrifier 2, someone who's attended to Terrifier 2 and said, you know what, I'm gonna sit out Terrifier 3. You know, it's gonna be as big, if not bigger, because I think the fan base has grown
Oh yeah.
so much since last year.
I mean, the
Um,
re-release screening was sold out.
yeah,
So like that's great. That's a fucking awesome sign.
yeah, and I mean, like, yes, obviously the teaser at the end, we didn't know how long that was going to be, how short that was going to be, so it was icing on the cake. I know as soon as that we said, "Oh, you're going to get an exclusive poster." I mean, I think the fan base was there to be like, "Okay, well, we need the poster," and we didn't
Hey,
even
we
get to
were
see it. Yeah,
like,
I know. So it's like I think it's one of those things where, I mean, the Terrifier fan base is going to show up, and
oh yeah.
it's gonna be huge. If it's mostly ceremony at that point if we want a third film to cement him as a big boy. But for my money, there isn't another character right now in the last few years that really holds a candle to Art the Clown.
Oh, if we're talking modern, absolutely. Yeah, he is the most. He's bigger than Victor Crowley, bigger than any of these other horror slasher properties that have come up. But I mean, it's uh it's definitely I can give him that. But before I can set him right next to the big three, you know, I wanna get one more film in there, at least in my book. But yeah, I mean, I think, even if Terrifier 3 were to come out and, people be like, not as good as the second one, but still, serviceable, I still think that the character will more than likely go on and become an all-time icon in
Yeah.
the slasher genre. No problem. No questions asked.
Oh, absolutely. I think and I guess for my money, I think we've reached that point where Terrifier 2, Terrifier 3 I think is going to be big. They're going to push the boundary even more. I don't know if you'll be able to recapture the magic of 2. 2 was just something absolutely special in terms of
Yeah,
being able to go see it. I think 3 is going to be quality as well, but it's just 2 was there was magic in the air that night.
it
You
really
know,
was.
and those subsequent rewatches they just get better and better. I know one of the
It's a
things.
comfort film for me. I throw it on every once in a while, even at random parts. I'll stop. Like, I won't even start at the beginning. Sometimes I'll just go right before the big kill scene in the middle, and then just watch through. So
I know there's not many gore fests that I sit down
yeah,
and want to rewatch as comfort films, but Terrifier hits that mark for me. And I know there was some other news here where we were talking about these big boys and
oh
are
yeah,
maybe not mentioning, maybe not hitting the chord with Michael, Freddy, or Jason, but Damien Leone may want to cover another prominent horror property in Friday the 13th.
yes. So it seems this week that Damon Leone he went and did a few promotional interviews, and I guess we can say now we did throw our hat in the ring for that one. But I mean, this was such a his time is so limited. Our PR rep is wonderful. She does a great job for us. She really kept us in the loop on things, but it is just one of those things where there was such a limited amount of slots. And of course, your Bloody Disgustings, your Screen Rants, anybody like that who's been in the game for a while, they're going to get priority. And we totally get that. And we're so all right with it. And I got to say, a lot of these interviews got a lot of good nuggets. I mean, there was definitely some that I read little blurbs from in articles and things where they were definitely a few questions in there that I was definitely gearing up to ask, and this was one of them for sure. I definitely wanted to know kind of which one of any of the big boys would he like to tackle, and yeah, he is a man of quality and taste, in my opinion, because we're cut from the same cloth here. He wants to do Friday the 13th if given the option. And I know when you and I talked about that, the first thing you said was yes, but he needs to cut down on the gore for Friday the 13th.
Yeah, for me, I think that Terrifier tone doesn't necessarily fit Friday the 13th, or at least what we're
No.
used to seeing from Friday the 13th. Honestly, what I am more excited, especially after sitting in the theater for Terrifier 2, and looking at that idea of all the characters that we saw in Terrifier 2 were not in the original Terrifier. It was building from the ground up, and the storytelling aspect there in about 2 hours and 21 minutes. Now, do I think Friday the 13th movie will be 2 hours and 21 minutes? Probably not. But, I think an hour 45, an hour 50, even pushing a 2 hour mark, I could easily see that. And I think I'd be very interested in seeing Damien Leone's kind of take on creating these characters and kind of creating that attachment and seeing what kind of interesting story he would want to bring to the Friday the 13th franchise. I know when he was asked that question, he didn't say an installment, he said a remake, and basing it in the 80s and
Mm,
things like that. So um, I think that'd be an interesting take, especially giving a property like this to someone like Damien Leone and kind of letting him do his own thing here and really kind of set that tone and kind of work that way up, especially if as we've seen in these installments in Friday the 13th, yes, they're not to, I guess, that extreme gore extent to a Terrifier 2 in most instances. I think maybe there are a couple kills that you could kind of get there. But I think that really gives Damien Leone kind of that idea to really open up that playbook and kind of push the limits of Friday the 13th and what we're used to seeing. So I think, if that was the case, I think he would be a really interesting choice to kind of revamp maybe the film aspect of Friday the 13th.
yes. Yeah. No, I would love that. I mean, we're pretty damn sold on this Peacock series. We've said it a few times with all the updates that we've gotten. We're looking forward to it. But yeah, the fact that, we do have Sean's side of things, Sean S. Cunningham's, uh, which we reported on that story. It seems to be more or less just more of a headline by this point. We haven't gotten a lot of updates from it. It seems like they were just kind of talking to talk and really gauge interest and see what kind of pushback they would get from maybe the people in charge of the show. But I mean, unless some crazy shit happened behind closed doors, there weren't any big, spills into the media or anything that we heard of about any issues. So yeah, I would say that I'm right there with you. I think that if you gave Damien Leone the reins for the film side of it, I think that he would do an excellent job. I think that he's definitely got slasher, in his blood. He definitely knows how to handle these. I 100% agree with you that I would want to see a different tone. If he tried to bring that Terrifier tone into Friday the 13th, it wouldn't work. It's like the thing about it is that Terrifier tone, it won't work for any of, I would say, the established big boys. Like, the closest one maybe would be Texas Chainsaw, and that's just me coming from my love of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 and that being a little bit more wacky and over the top, but it's Terrifier is just such its own brand with that and Art the Clown. And I think that he wouldn't do that in my opinion. Just I don't know him personally, but like just from the way that he spoke about this, I think that he would definitely be very faithful and strike that tone. And yeah, building characters from the ground up, that is something that I've wanted to see in a Friday the 13th for so long. Because like, paper thin characters, yeah, that's the trope. But if there's anything Terrifier 2 showed us is that, yeah, you can have a fucking slasher gore fest and he can still have fantastic characters. And I think that he could definitely do that. I'd love to see it. One of my favorite quotes coming from actually Collider back in the day was from Mark Ellis, who said, if I was to do, or if he wanted to see a Friday the 13th film, he would want to see like a combination of almost Dazed and Confused meets Friday the 13th. And it was like kind of off-putting at first. You're like, what does that mean? But it's like, no, he wants to see camaraderie and people being teenagers, but like real teenagers, like talking, getting to know each other, being friends, not just, hey, we're going to smoke pot and have sex in the woods. you know we're out there, we're people, we're human beings, and then they're getting killed. And I think that's right on the money.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you need that connective tissue, and I think like looking at Friday 13th as opposed to a Terrifier tone. I think Damon Leone would be able to kind of have this is Terrifier, this is Friday 13th. We're not going to mix and match. We're not trying to get to the same tone by either one. I think, yeah, like you said, he would be faithful to that tone of Friday the 13th because, again, he's a student of the game. He's a horror fan. He knows what horror fans want in that aspect. And I think he can go back and really build those characters and, get subsequent installments out of those characters if he really wanted to. I think it would be a really interesting choice. Especially if we have this kind of Crystal Lake TV series going on, as well as kind of picking and choosing some directors to do like the film aspect that maybe is going to be released in theaters, and kind of these two universes dueling happening at the same time, I think would be interesting. But yeah, as soon as this popped up, Damien Leone and Friday the 13th, I would say, hey, this would be, horror fans would already be there for Friday the 13th. It would just be a bonus to have Damien behind the lens.
It would be nice. He's definitely on my short list for people I'd want to see tackle it. And Ty West is on there as well. But honestly, the person I want to see tackle a Friday the 13th the most, you already know what I'm going to say.
It's us.
David Gordon Green. Oh, us, yeah, but David Gordon Green. I mean, like the guy's, he's batting 1,000 right now. But yeah, no, absolutely, God, I'd love to make one. You know it. We've had those talks. Maybe one day.
We'll see what happens.
But all right, anyway, let's get on to probably the biggest surprise of the week. I mean, did you see this coming? Because I certainly didn't. And
No.
that we're talking about It Follows here,
Yeah,
getting a sequel.
I've never heard this ever in a discussion ever of, hey, you know what? should have a sequel as It Follows. So this one really did catch me off guard.
I that movie felt and has been for so long, just like I know that you need to revisit it. You stated this week.
Yes.
So I won't speak for you, but for me, I can say I enjoy this movie a lot. I didn't when I first saw it. I didn't. I thought like, man, this is like just strange, and it's making me feel all kinds of uncomfortable feelings. But it's one of those things where I gotta admit, it's one that was like so frustrating to me that I just kept going back to it and watching it. And the more I watched it, the more I liked it. And I was really starting to kind of process and understand. It's one of the first films I could say, I guess, modern films, I could say that really made me want to go back and study it and really be like, why did I feel this way that I did? I went up to the Kent Cinema with Adrian, as you guys know him as our editor. And I remember him and I went and sat down with it, and we were just like, what's with all the naked fucking old people in this movie, man? Like, I'm in like fucking 10th grade. I'm talking when I saw this. So it's it was something else. It was really something else.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting film. I actually saw this probably maybe over 2 years ago now. I was late to the game on this one. And it was very hyped up for me. To be honest, a lot of people really speak highly of it. And I'll say going into it, I thought it was a good film. I think, for me, sometimes expectations are set and it's hard to reach them. I will say, I think maybe so much hype. And then for me, that opening scene was just jarring. And I didn't know really what, I had set an expectation, I think, after that. And I think, after seeing that, I was just kind of wanting a little bit more. But again, I haven't seen it in 2 years, and yeah, I've only seen it one time through. So I'm definitely intrigued to go back and watch this. I definitely have to after seeing that there's gonna be a sequel out there. So um, and having the director as well as the lead actor, I mean, it's a rarity nowadays to really kind of be able to build that team again. And after seeing the news, I can say I am very excited for this one, though.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm really curious to see where the story is going to go here. I
Yeah,
hope that I would like to see a time jump where we're still in the modern day, where it's like um, I don't want to see it pick up directly after that one. I'd love to see like years go by and then this entity, whatever this thing is, begins to reappear. And I do like David Robert Mitchell. I actually enjoyed his film Under the Silver Lake quite a bit. I remember I saw it just last year. I think I threw it on one of the few horror movies that I haven't watched over the last 2 years here since we started the channel. And I enjoyed it, but that movie got absolutely dumpstered by critics. And it is very long. I think
yeah,
it is overly long. I think that it is a complex story. But it is again another film that I actually enjoy studying. I think that I've enjoyed listening to the subsequent video essays and things a little bit more than maybe I enjoyed the film. Just understanding people's opinions. But I yeah, I don't know. This definitely feels like after Under the Silver Lake, he's got to come back with something because he hasn't done anything since. I know that Under the Silver Lake was a critical and commercial flop by all standards for A24, and I guess they weren't very happy about that because they gave him a lot of freedom. It's kind of the same situation they did with Ari Aster, as opposed to Ari Aster having proven himself twice over. Uh, David Robert Mitchell only made It Follows, which was a success, and then they gave him the keys to the kingdom, and it didn't work out. But I think that's the risk you take when you're telling stories like that. So I don't put any of that really on him. I think that they're interesting stories and they're complex, but I think the studios have to understand that the guy's not telling stories for everybody. He's telling stories for a specific brand of people. And it's again, we say it all the time, you're either on board or you're not.
yeah. And looking at when It Follows came out, and I believe 2014.
Yep.
And looking at the horror space almost 10 years
I was
later,
about to say, yeah.
I think it is a different kind of space in general, where, as you said, he's making films for a very particular set of people, and I think that set has grown over the last few
Hmm.
years, especially after films like Hereditary, Get Out, and really opening up this horror space, Midsummer, things like that, where the taste has changed. And I think if this was coming out in 2015, I don't think that would have been a conversation, to be honest. So I think now it's like, wait, audiences will want this. We didn't know we wanted it, but now that it's been announced, I think, people are happy to see this property back. And prepping to,
Exciting for
yeah,
sure.
to
Yeah.
get this back, something like this property in the theater again. Because everyone does speak very highly of It Follows. And I think that reputation there has really over the last decade has really stayed true, where it's not something people flip-flopped on. People that you meet that enjoy It Follows will enjoy It Follows throughout the entirety. It's not something you flip-flop on. So I think seeing They Follow being announced and that being going to hit theaters, I think you're going to see an even bigger audience want to go out and check this one out, because that taste has changed. There are being able to see things like Barbarian, Black Phone, Malignant, things like that. I think I think horror fans are ready for something like this and really do want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head with that. Because like we got to remember, this even predates The Witch,
Yeah,
and there was a long time where that was one of the more controversial opinions to like The Witch, because people were like, "Oh no, that movie's just weird," and blah blah. And it's like now I have a hard time finding any horror fan who doesn't like that movie. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's definitely, I say, on the beginning end of kind of this elevated horror era that we've
yeah,
been in for about 10 years now. So but yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I need to see more to really cement that opinion and that feeling. But right now, I'm looking forward to it. Again, I love Micah Monroe. Still need to see The Watcher, so I got to get that done before this comes out. And yeah, I'm here for it.
yeah.
But speaking of actors that we like and actresses, we've gotten some Mike Flanagan news for you guys and some big stuff. Obviously, everybody kind of knows this was one of the bigger stories towards the end of the last week. We are talking about Life of Chuck. Mike Flanagan announces incredible full cast, including our boy, Matthew Lillard.
Oh my gosh, I was so excited. My voice is cracking at the thought. But
Yeah,
this one, sitting through Five Nights at Freddy's and kind of, being underwhelmed with that, and maybe the usage of Matthew
it's not
Lillard,
enough.
no matter how great he is on screen. It's just one of those things where you want Matthew Lillard to have a prominent role in some sort of horror property. The guy's a treasure. He's fantastic. And you really want to see his range, because, I mean, of course, everyone uses the Scream photo, and being able to see him as Stu. I mean, again, anytime we talk Scream, everyone wants him back. But, just the release of this all-star cast, is just wild. Being able to sit through Fall House of Usher and speak so highly of that, and then coming right off the heels of that. I don't know too much about this property, Life of Chuck. I know, again, Stephen King property. I know the little excerpts that I checked, the little blurbs of what the concept is. Seems like I don't know how can go either way in terms of how far we dive into the horror realm, or we kind of get into a little bit more dramatic piece. Obviously it's Mike Flanagan. He's going to have some horror undertones there. I'm curious to see what this is going to look like, because the story seems interesting enough. Doesn't really jump out 100% as true horror. I think there are going to be elements in there, but this cast really has goosebumps. I'm really excited for it.
I agree. I mean, there's a lot of big names on this list. There's so many people that I'm shocked in some ways, but also, of course, many returning players for Mike Flanagan. The dude has just the most consistent Rolodex of actors out there, and I mean, it pays off damn near every time. Obviously, we all expect Kate Siegel. She's going to be in there. She's a gem. But then also, we're getting back Carl Lumbly. Obviously, Raul Colli is going to be in this one. Love that. And then a few others that have popped up in his stuff, including Mark Hamill is coming back, which we loved him in Fall of the House of Usher. Absolutely loved his performance. But I mean, some of these new players too, man. David DeSchmalten, I mean, that's fucking great. I love that. Harvey Gillian, if you've never seen What We Do in the Shadows, a TV show, Luke, highly recommend it. And then, obviously another one that we love is Violet McGraw is going to be in this thing. I mean, that's just those names alone. And then you add on Matthew Lillard. Of course, Jacob Tremblay has worked with him before. And then Tom Hiddleston. We all love him. And Karen Gillan's great. And Chiwetel Ejiofor as well. I mean, the list just goes on.
Yeah, and we did our Fall House of Usher review, and one of the big shining lights we talked about was the usage of his cast and how he makes such great use of their range and kind of gives them that connective tissue in that story. In looking at this, yes, do I think this property is going to be great? Absolutely. I have no reason to believe otherwise. But also, what I'm looking at here, as Dylan just mentioned, I mean, Mark Hamill's returning. Some of his usual suspects are going to be in here. And to see Flanagan, build this lineup of, yes, Matthew Lillard's in this, but he could potentially be in the next Mike Flanagan property, and kind of being able to, you kind of salivate at the potential performances that we will get just because of the inception of the life of Chuck, and bringing that property to television, and then seeing what else what's on the horizon there. So I'm really curious to see, is this the sort of a working relationship with Matthew Lillard, with Heather Langenkamp, and kind of bringing these players that we've seen in the horror space from the 80s, from the 90s, really bringing them back into the fold here, and seeing what other performances we're going to get. Because, one of the big shining lights from Fall House Usher was Mark Hamill, and we didn't know how that was going to turn out. That was something that was completely new, a new relationship between Mike Flanagan and Mark Hamill. And I mean, what a great performance Mark Hamill gave. So I'm excited to see him back here. I'm even more excited to see what other performances we're going to get, that we're going to be talking about after we see this actual, come to light, and we're able to sit down and drink it all in a sense. I'm really excited for this. As soon as this is one of the big things where when they start announcing casting for Mike Flanagan properties, I mean, that instantly gets you hyped. I don't even need to know the subject matter right off the hand. I just need to know the cast.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely, he's one of the people in this industry right now who just gets the best out of his actors. And I mean, like, looking through just some more of the cast here of just like his usual suspects. Obviously, I'm sure that we're gonna get a little Henry Thomas, and it would break my heart if an actor I really want to see more from. I think he's just wonderful as Robert Longstreet. Very minor role in Fall of the House of Usher, but when he's there, he's great. And yeah, I want to see it. I want to see Hamish Linklater come back too at some point. Hasn't yet. We're only one property removed right now, but if it's not this, hopefully another series soon. Because man, like that character that he portrayed in Midnight Mass, it's just like I don't he Mike Flanagan does this thing where it's like he writes characters. Him and his team they write and produce characters that are just meant for actors, and that character was meant for Hamish Linklater, in my opinion. Like nobody else could play that character.
Yeah, and absolutely. Like, looking at Mike Flanagan properties, I don't think there is another director out there. I mean, there are a lot of great directors, but I can say consistently gives these performances of scenes that I just want to live in. Where it's like I could watch this on rerun. I mean, Midnight Mass has it. Fall House of Usher has it. I can guarantee Life of Chuck's gonna have it. I'm just overly excited here. This can't come soon enough. I don't know how much, what page count this is in terms of the actual source material, so I don't know how much room he has to play. I know it is a short story,
It
but I
is.
don't
I was
know
gonna say it's in If It Bleeds, I believe, is
yeah,
the anthology.
Yeah,
So
so I'm assuming he's going to be able to have a lot of room to play here, and I think that's Mike Flanagan at his best when he doesn't have to cram in so much source material. So I'm definitely excited for this one from the cast, and just to see what he's going to do next.
yeah, I think that there's a lot of elements in here that are just right up Mike Flanagan's alley. I did just kind of eyeball a little bit of this. I know we talked about it at one point, but I know you said you don't know much about the property, and I don't either. But it is kind of neat here, just so we can kind of get some, I want to say some Hill House vibes from this story, but it is, in the sense, a story about a man who dies of a brain tumor at 39 and ending with his childhood in a supposedly haunted house. So that is very interesting to me, kind of running through that moments of, when you die, life flashes before your eyes. If there's anybody I think who can handle that material, it's Mike Flanagan.
Absolutely.
100%. But why don't we move on to our last story of the day? And yeah, we've been gabbing quite a bit, but like I said, lots of good stories this week. And to wrap us up for the day, we're going to just transition to a quick little story for you, just a nugget. Obviously, when this anything trick or treat related comes up, we're going to talk about it, especially if Luke is on the show, because, yeah, we all know Luke is a diehard trick or treat fan, and Michael Dougherty was at a recent screening hosted by Collider, and they did speak about Trick or Treat 2 still being in active development. Luke, how are you feeling about all this?
Anytime trick or treat comes up in a conversation, I get excited because we're holding out hope that we do get that sequel. Things do look slightly promising. As Michael Dougherty mentioned, that they have a great script, and it's got a couple familiar faces working with him that he had done Krampus with as well. And they even mentioned maybe a formidable foe happening in that sequel, which maybe could be Krampus. Who knows? But I think it does open up a lot of interesting stories to be told. That original property is a more anthology route, whereas like we could be getting more of a linear story. I think that would be an interesting take to kind of give us a different feel, a different vibe for that sequel. But there's a lot of lore here left to be uncovered, so I'm really curious to see what route they go down.
Me too. I think, it's been an active development now for about 10 years. So I also agree with you that I think a linear story would be an interesting approach. I know everybody's like the anthology route was what they started with. So that's kind of where everybody expects it to go. But there aren't any like rules here that says that it has to stay that way. I mean, it could easily just transition out of the anthology story. Like that's just the introduction, and we do go a little bit more linear if they have a specific story or maybe a kind of idea with Sam himself, and they just want to kind of follow him or follow a family as they're dealing with an incident and Sam is somehow involved. There's a lot of routes you can take, and we've been waiting this long. I would say if we have to wait any longer, I mean within the next 5 years or so, I'm going to have a lot more doubt on this ever actually coming to light. But I mean, I'll never say never.
Yeah, I think nowadays, this being 2023, I think the trick or treat property has become more of a rich property. I think a lot of people are becoming a little more aware of Sam and the stories that are told through that trick or treat franchise. So I'm really, I think I think this will happen. I think it's kind of just a timing issue with the Godzilla stuff happening and everything. But I think right now. I think this is the community is ripe in a sense for another trick or treat story.
Hey, we'll be there opening night, and I know a lot of you guys will be there with us. So, alrighty, folks, that is that. That is going to wrap us up here for our Sunday Scaries. Yes, first one of November, first one out of Splatterthon. Lots of good stories, lots of good news, and lots of great videos up on the channel. Obviously, we talked about it all up front with the Terrifier news, but if you want to get our in-depth thoughts on the Terrifier 3 teaser trailer, we have that video up for you to watch, as well as Luke slaved very, very vigorously over a video going over Jason Goes to Hell. and more of you guys should watch it because it's really good. I like it a lot. So I definitely think you guys will enjoy that. There's also a ton of other content up there, current reviews, festival reviews, and I just sat down with Dennis Paoli and Joe Lynch and talked a little bit of Suitable Flesh for about an hour. So lots of good stuff, lots more along the way. And yeah, we'll be keeping you guys up to date and informed on all things horror, especially now that we're getting into the holiday horror months. So, all right, that's going to wrap us up here. So, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. But until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.